And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines. We have with us another guest today. We have John Deaton, who is a U.S. Marine, cancer survivor, father of 3 daughters, trial attorney, and an author who's overcome significant challenges to build a successful life and advocate for unrepresented communities. John was born in 1967 in Highland Park, Michigan, grew up in generational poverty, and amid racial tensions and violence, and he still came out graduating magna cum laude from Eastern Michigan University, earned a law degree from New England School of Law in 1995. He was a judge advocate at Marine Corps Air Station Yuma, Arizona, and later Special Assistant U.S. Attorney for the District of Arizona. Welcome, John. Oh, John is also running for Senate in Massachusetts. Unfortunately, this is his second try. His first try, he ran against Elizabeth Warren, and sadly, he didn't make it that time. Hopefully, things will be different.
Native American.
You're going against another Democrat now, right?
I am. This is my second time. Thank you for having me. I'm going against Ed Markey, who, believe it or not, is even further left than Elizabeth Warren. He's as far left as you can get. He's been elected for 53 years in elected office. As you can tell, I'm not a young man, but his first year in office, I was 6 years old. And the good news this time, guys, is I don't have a primary opponent like I did last time. In Massachusetts, the primary is September 1st. Very, very late. It doesn't give you a lot of time. When you count early voting, you got 6 weeks from the primary to the general, very incumbent friendly. I don't have a primary. Ed Markey does. And we got polling that shows I got a shot this time at winning. So I'm looking forward to making the case.
I would also think that the general temperature of the nation is a bit more conservative than it was a number of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's Massachusetts. What people don't know about Massachusetts is we lead the nation in independent voters. It's called unenrolled. 65% are unenrolled. 8% are registered Republicans. 25% are Democrats. But Massachusetts was the second best state President Trump improved from 2020 to 2024. Florida was first. He improved 9 points. He improved 8 points. I got 1.35 million votes, about 41% of the vote, as a first-time no-name candidate. And so I think we got a shot. And it can't get any worse in Massachusetts, to be honest with you. This one-party rule here has destroyed the state.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've never been beloved by more than 1 or 2 people at a time. To get over 1 million is amazing.
Well, thanks. I'm looking forward to making, he's so far left that he's, I think, offended center left people. And I mean it, like open borders, not just amnesty, but citizenship for all illegals in the country. Biological boys compete against girls. The Green co-author, the Green New Deal, all of that stuff. And so it's going to be interesting. Common sense versus extremism. And I'm hoping common sense wins.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing that gets me is Massachusetts. I didn't know you had so many independent voters in Massachusetts, but you still have all Democrat representation, no Republican representation, as far as I know. And is that because of gerrymandering, or just people are just used to picking the Democrat?
I think it's a combination of both going back. But you're right. I got over 40%, and all 9 members of the House are Democrats. Both U.S. senators are Democrat, and every statewide office, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, treasurer, auditor, you name it, attorney general, all Democrats. And so it's going to be real interesting because when you look at the stats, when we have Harvard, MIT, Tufts, the greatest hospitals in the world, biotech, Massachusetts should be really winning. And we are devastated. We are dead last in private sector job growth.
Wow.
We have 1.1 million people out of 7 million on food stamps. We have the highest electricity prices in the continental U.S., the highest child care costs. We're dead last in housing affordability. And so when you add all that up, you would think that people are ready for change. Also, unfortunately, because of those stats, we lead the country in people leaving. And I point this out to everyone. You know, of course, they blame it on whoever occupies the White House, right? They blame everything on Trump. Well, New Hampshire, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, all thriving. These are states that are thriving, and they have the same president that Massachusetts has. And so it really is, this one party rule has devastated the state.
Well, there you go. And so the thing is that it seems to me as though anybody who's paying attention must recognize that it's time for a change. So I think you've got a shot based upon what you just told us.
Yeah. And we got polling. One poll has me edging Markey out by 1 or 2. The other poll has me down by 5 points. So it's a competitive race. But not having a primary allows me to take a common sense approach to those independents. While Markey and Seth Moten are trying to out extreme each other on nonsense, to be honest with you.
Well, the governor, every time I hear anything about your governor, I get cringe. You know, it's like, whoa, what is going on there? So how are you gonna deal with her when you're in?
Well, I point that out. It's a great question. I point it out to people because we obviously have a governor's race going on, and there's 2 Republicans in the primary. But I point out to people that the Senate race is the most important race where you can have the most impact, because a Republican governor is going to face a supermajority Democratic legislature on day one that can override any veto. 1/3 of the budget comes from federal funds. So your U.S. senator can operate outside that supermajority that's on Beacon Hill, try to get, some of those federal tax dollars back to Massachusetts, not increase spending. I don't favor that, but the dollars that we send, getting them back for nuclear credits, for nuclear energy, for housing, for healthcare, and other things. So you can fight for that. The other side, their whole argument is they're going to fight Trump. I mean, that's their entire platform.
Yeah.
They're going to fight Trump. Well, it's a 6-year term. President Trump won't be in office 3 years from now. And I think people hopefully will be ready for someone who says, hey, let's fight for some things and fight for people instead of just building a policy on the hatred of some other human being.
Speaking of the hatred, what are your thoughts on what happened with the most recent assassination attempt on the president?
Well, I got to tell you, from a security standpoint, I really do have questions. This is the 3rd attempt on an assassination of an American president. And, this guy at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, how he was able to access a stairwell for 40 flights that wasn't being monitored, be able to exit out of that and get within 100 feet of the President of the United States, the Vice President, the First Lady, the Secretary of State. I mean, you're talking about the whole, Treasury Secretary. Yeah, the cabinet is right there. And he was able to get off a round, right? And so he was able to get off one shot. He's walking around with a shotgun, a rifle, knives. And so, Butler, my question was, how is the building that is a single line of sight from an elevated position, how is that not checked by Secret Service for that shooter? And, but for the grace of God, the president turns his head. Otherwise, he'd have been killed on national TV live like Charlie Kirk was. And so that's one concern I have. I don't understand how this guy could get so close to the president and the cabinet. But so there's some serious security questions, I think, that needs to be answered by the Secret Service and that detail. that makes me really question. Also, you would think that the political leadership, in fact, the two guys that are running the Democratic primary, Ed Markey, 3 weeks before the third assassination attempt on President Trump, literally said, and I'm not blaming him. I know he's not. I'm not implying that he meant kill the president, but he's out there saying President Trump is a clear and present danger to America, to national interest, and he must be removed from office. Right. You have the other guy, Seth Moulton, a congressman, saying that Trump is murdering people on the high sea, and as soon he'll be murdering people in your own neighborhood. He must be removed. And when you use that kind of language constantly, you have to ask yourself, when the rhetoric becomes complicit in the conduct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, enabling the crazies out there.
The thing is that when one person says it, that's one thing. But when you have multiple people in high office saying it, it sounds authentic. It sounds like we put as much trust into some of these people as we did into all of the scientists and Fauci and stuff during COVID. We relied on them completely. You put a paper mask over your face. That's going to stop the virus. So the thing is, like, it's not just one person doing it. It's a mass of individuals doing it. It's various news sources, repeating it over and over again. And then you have this depression that seems to be running through the entire country. This rift that's not just difference of opinion. It's actually adversarial, and so we've stopped becoming American citizens and have started becoming factions, and that's a terrible thing.
No, it is terrible, and I try to remind everybody that you have more in common with your neighbor who voted differently than you in the presidential election than you do these career politicians that we're talking about. I mean, you worry about retirement, taking a vacation, whether the roof is leaking, just education costs for your children, public crime, whether you can go in the public park without being, subject to some kind of mugging or drug person who's out of their mind. We worry about the same things, but no, they've seemed to drive this division. The social media algorithms drive outrage to keep this animosity and this toxic division. And I think I try to tell everyone, I don't think it's about right versus left. I think it's about those in power against those who are not in power, the rest of us. And hopefully that message will resonate with folks, because it is a shame. I mean, listen, I'm going to get on the stage with Ed Markey and say, a fundamental difference between him is he stands on that stage as a Democrat. I stand on that stage as an American, and nice. And there's a fundamental difference in that approach. And if you're a U.S. senator, it shouldn't matter who the president is. Like, you should have one test: is it good for America in your state? If it is, you support it. If it isn't, you don't. But these guys, I'm going to call them out and tell them that they hate Trump more than they love America, as far as I'm concerned.
It's true. Yeah, they are polarized. Let me ask you a question. I heard that the last shooter, the one at the event, that he had told a number of people that the security at that location was going to be very poor. And my first thought was, how did he know that?
Yeah.
How did he know? How did he get that information? And it makes me wonder if this is not part of a greater conspiracy and they simply algorithm this guy into it.
No, that's a great question. And here's the thing. 10 years ago, Michael, maybe you'd have sounded like a conspiracy theorist, right? If you'd have said that. But nowadays, I mean, with everything that we've learned, those are legitimate questions. Like I said, how does the guy know that roof that has got a clear line of sight in Butler, that's only a couple hundred yards away, that's not a difficult shot with a high scope rifle.
Oh yeah.
You just have to have basic familiarity with the weapon. You don't have to be an expert shot to be able to get that close to killing an American president. And to your better question is, how does this guy project a lack of security protocol within the Hilton Hotel before it happens? Then he gets there and he makes the comment that is as expected. He's got free reign to come and go as he pleases, and he was even surprised at how easy it was to get as close as he did. And so that's why I said when we started the program on this issue, which is there's some serious questions that have to be answered. Are there leaks inside the Secret Service? Are they putting stuff online where these crazy, sort of mentally unstable people, reside or live that causes them to this call of action that I think a lot of people are calling them to do?
Yeah, I think it's manipulation. It's manipulation by the deep state. There's another conspiracy theory.
So the thing is, the environment was set up for it. Lack of communication. The fact that much of the personnel was actually in the same building underneath the shooter. The fact that they did not have their own sniper. I mean, it was right freaking there. You had a cop that went up there and was shoot away from him. It was just, it just seems like they were designed to fail. And they may not have been the part of it, but the leadership or whomever, I mean, they didn't have radios. They're talking to each other on their cell phones. I mean, come on, John, you and I should go out there and have security right now. I got a phone,
Right.
It's just like
we'd probably do a better job.
Well, if I know John would.
there is no doubt. I mean, how do they not have a drone with a camera surveilling the buildings all within 1,000 yards of the president on an outside venue? How do you not have that? I mean, we're talking about, it's not that very expensive. You can have a $300 drone with a camera that is hooked to your phone, and you're observing, any movement on the roofs and stuff like that. How do they not have a security guard, somebody outside the exit of that stairwell at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, so that when he exits on the bottom floor after coming down 40 flights, how does he not meet someone?
Well, you did see
one
security.
It's a egress area. How do you not cover that? I just don't get that.
Well, you did see in the video, you see one agent pass by right in front of the door and then casually walk back before the assassin came out and ran through the hallway. He was taken by surprise, or he or she, I don't know if it was a he or a she who was in the hallway, but everybody there was taken by surprise. The one guy jumped, looked like in a cartoon, and then he grabbed his gun.
The dogs were barking at the access way as well. So if they had paid attention to the dogs, they would have been alerted. But getting back to Butler, the reason why they didn't have their own drones is because the shooter brought his instead. So, he brought his drone up. The airspace was not being monitored, which I understand is standard operation. So, again, it seems orchestrated. Like, it's just, And then
also, why not have a sniper up on that water tower? That overlooked the whole area.
It begs the question: did someone in the upper echelon of the FBI allow this to happen?
I think the
that was fired,
director who resigned was involved in it. Myself.
Yeah.
I mean, at a minimum, is it someone just like pretending not to see, and they I mean, that shooter had to have confidence. If I was just sitting around and thinking, you know what, I'm going to try to kill a president of the United States, on what level would I have any confidence that there's a building a couple hundred yards away that I'm going to be able to access with a clear line of sight from an elevated position. I mean, it's just the most basic kind of thing. It's not Monday morning quarterbacking. This is basic security protocol, like you said about the airspace above the president. I mean, you would think that they would have the airspace all the way 1,000 feet above,
right?
Which is usually the flight pattern for any local aircraft. I don't get it.
That was the shooter shot at 556, right?
Yeah,
that is wicked accurate.
Absolutely.
The thing is, I have a
going like this.
226, and the first time I shot it at 100 yards, I was getting under an inch, and I am a lousy shooter compared to everybody around me. They're all out shooting me, and I can get an under an inch with that round. Come on, man. So
if you shot that rifle twice before in your life, you could make that shot.
Yeah.
Right.
You could make that shot. And he would have made that shot, but for this.
Yeah. And notice that it would have hit him right here if he hadn't.
You know what's even more incredible? The stories that the left has come up with to make it appear as though it was all a facade. That he touched his ear with a razor blade, so this way his ear would WWE. Oh my God!
Yeah.
It's like
I remember the WWE. They would fall down on their face and they'd take a little razor blade they'd have in their little wristband and they'd cut their forehead. That's why they have all the scars right here. You're right. No, it's insane. And there's a lot of people saying that the White House correspondent was a staged event.
Right.
Despite the fact that there's train tickets, there's the hotel reservation, he traveled across the country. And then listen, when you look at it, the manifesto, you hear the same talking points: rapist, pedophile, all this kind of stuff that I can't tolerate anymore.
Yeah, liars like Ted Lieu are saying that all the time, and Adam Schiff. I can't stand Schiff. You give me 10 minutes in a room with Schiff, I'll go to jail for homicide. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I think these elected leaders need to start taking some responsibility. Act like an adult. Act like an adult.
No,
the American
they intend what's happening. This is all intentional, I think. All right, they're not doing it. Oh, my hands are clean, but I'm going to make sure that some poor guy is going to be. What was the name of Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver? Travis something. I'm going to influence him enough so that he's going to take action, and I'll have my hands clean of it. But it'll get what I want done.
Well, and listen, the reality is you would think after 3 assassination attempts that they would dial it down, but they're not. It's still threat to democracy. The midterms are going to be canceled by Trump. He must be removed one way. I mean, when you say things like he must be removed one way or the other, I mean,
it's another one. He's trying to destroy women by preventing them to vote, by going ahead and saying that you have to ID. And the thing is, well, if they change their name, then they won't be able to vote because they married the guy. And like, what? Excuse me? Like, this is the kind of
been a problem for them before.
Yeah, well, black people can't get ID. They don't know how to.
You ask any black person, do you have an ID? Yeah, of course I have an ID. You think it's it's hard for people to get an ID? No, not at all.
No, they'll have a whole bunch over here and go, which one you want to see?
Right. No, listen, I mean, that's an example of if you poll black Americans, if you poll all Americans, over 80% favor voter ID.
Right.
Yes. Over 80%. I mean, that's more than 3 out of 4. How often do we get 3 out of 4 people or more agree on anything?
Even 71% of Democrats favor it.
Yes. And if you ask black voters themselves, they're over 70%. Yet the guy I'm running against, because I support voter ID, he, of course, calls me a racist.
And that doesn't include the percentage of people that don't care one way or the other, that are not opposed nor in agreement with. But the thing is, like, It's just the thing is, we talk about Trump derangement syndrome, okay? But the fact of the matter is, it's actually not Trump derangement syndrome. It is the holy church of the Trump derangement syndrome. You have to be part of this cult in order to go ahead and become one of those cats. So they're just. I forgot. We interviewed a gentleman, and he introduced me to the concept of what he called horizontal thinking, which is just reiteration, not thought that increases one's cognitive ability. So that's what we have here. We have cultism here. But the other thing is that I got to ask you a question. The biggest problem that I see, and we keep asking the questions like, why are these leaders making these choices? And the answer seems to be they're cheats. They're making money. They're becoming millionaires. They're doing deals on the side, this, that, and the other thing. They're using their influence for insider trading, etc., etc. The level of corruption is horrendous, and it's not one-sided. There's multiple people on both sides, and it's become formulaic, in that. So, one of the problems I think that you're going to not discover, but have to deal with, is dealing with a bunch of people that are getting money from the side, that side money, and it's, I got to vote one way or the other. Might as well make a buck out of it, So the thing is that, have you already sensed that corruption? And what do you think about it if it's there?
Yeah, I was asked the other day in an interview, if I was limited to one thing, I could only go to DC and accomplish one thing, what it would be, and I addressed it. I have a multi-purpose act that's called the Washington Clean Hands Act that I came up with. Obviously, it seeks constitutional amendment for term limits for members of Congress. It seeks single issue bills. A bill shouldn't be 1,000 pages, and it shouldn't mix Ukraine funding with Social Security, with education. Right. If an issue can't survive on its own, then maybe it shouldn't survive. I mean, that's just the way it is, right? The Ukraine funding bill should be called maybe the Ukraine funding bill. Yeah. And leave it at that. So single issue bills, the regulatory capture, you shouldn't go to Congress for 2 years and then become a lifetime lobbyist. You shouldn't be able to trade crypto or inside trader. I mean, Ro Khanna is a congressman out of Silicon Valley, and he's the greatest Silicon Valley investor in the history of the world, better than Nancy Pelosi. His wife has done I'm not exaggerating, over 10,000 trades.
Wow.
And it includes the companies that he's on committee for, defense contractors, Raytheon and all these other types, Lockheed Martin, and he's been trading the stocks that he's overseeing that awards government contracts to. We got to clean that up. You shouldn't be on Pfizer's. I mean, you shouldn't be the chairman of the FDA on Friday. You resign, and on Monday you're on Pfizer's board. You were just in charge of regulating them. So we have to clean up the regulatory capture. These NGOs. Ed Markey, not only has he only collected a taxpayer check his entire career, 53 years, his wife has worked for NGOs for 40 years, right? And so my position is, if the federal government isn't allowed to engage in the underlying activity, then why are we allowed to fund it? Why is taxpayer funding it? How does Stacey Abrams run for governor, loses, and then she gets $1 billion NGO on an area she's never been an expert in? Like the grift that you're talking about, we live in the corruption era, guys, and we got to do something about it.
Do you think there's ever a chance that I forget which number amendment it was, the amendment that made senators an elected position rather than appointed by the state so that they could look out for the state's interests? Do you think that will ever be reversed? Because I think that would minimize, not eliminate, but minimize corruption among the senators.
No, I think so. But as Michael said, when the status quo is feeding these people the way it's feeding them, and they're getting rich. I mean, listen, I'll pick someone, Anna Presley, a congresswoman here in Massachusetts.
Oh,
8 years ago, she had or 6 years ago, she had net assets at minus 50,000. So her net worth was a negative 50,000. She's worth like $10 million 5 years later on a $174,000 a year contract where you have to pay 2 rents, one in Washington, one. It can't be done. The math can't be done.
Reminds me of AOC and her radical shift from $30 million to what paltry sum.
no,
It
that was Omar.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's an Omar.
AOC, when she first went to Washington, she said she couldn't afford the rent over there, and now she's worth what, 10 million?
Right. And so that's what the problem is. And so to answer your question is it's what Michael brought up, when the grift is that bad and when the grift pays that well, being a disruptor you're going to get some flack. And I think people need to get angry though. And I think they need to vote all the bums out,
Like in Indiana.
including, yeah.
But the thing is,
great victory.
The average person goes to work, does their job, comes home, takes care of their family, and has little or no time to focus on politics.
You're right.
And they rely on the leadership to go ahead and manage things. It's like, do I need to understand everything about the plumbing in my house in order to hire a plumber? No, I hire the plumber and he takes care of the business. I give him my pay and that's it. And the thing is, what's happened is that the integrity of some of these people isn't there. They're not. This is going to sound really corny. Okay, there's not enough God in our life. Okay, and when people start behaving as though there is no consequences for one's poor behavior, that there is no motivation for an ethical life, then what happens is you have everybody grabbing at pie.
No, I agree. And we look at it's went from public service to self-service. Back in the day, people would actually sacrifice to go serve, right? To go to Washington, your business, your farm would take a financial hit. You'd go serve for, a couple terms to serve your country, and then you would come back to reconnect your private life and your business and your farming or whatever you were doing. And nowadays it's the opposite of that. It's how fast can I get rich in Washington?
Yeah. Now, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to ask you, what chances do you think your Washington Clean Hands Act has of passing?
Well, we learned today, the Senate, one of the things in my act was that with two things, well, there are multiple things, but two of the things I'm going to talk about. One was if you don't pass a budget, you don't get paid as a congressman.
Yes.
Right. The other one is if you shut down the government, you don't get paid.
Exactly.
Well, I just before we went on air here, I saw that the Senate unanimously agreed with a bill that if you shut down the government, senators won't get paid. So, there's some progress. They're going to fight term limits, obviously, tooth and nail. They're going to probably fight the no pay for a budget, but we got to do something. We got to fight for it, and we've got to get leadership that at least make a vote. We've got to start getting these senators and congressmen on record of why they're voting. We got to end the zombie filibuster, for example, where you could just say, we don't have 60 votes and you don't have to debate about it. You don't have to go on record about it. We got to end that and call for a vote. Okay. Deaton has a bill. It's pretty simple. If we don't pass a budget, we don't get paid. We need to get that on the Senate floor and force every senator and congressman to go on record of whether or not they support that. All right. I would support it. You got to have we have to start incentivizing the behavior that we want, right?
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is incentivize them personally, that if you don't pass a budget, you're not going to get paid yourself.
I think that's great. I have a problem though with term limits,
Yep.
in that I understand that it's motivated by the idea that you reach a certain point in your life and you might be too old to serve, or maybe you're no longer competent. I don't have a problem with people having to take competency tests to ensure that they are capable of performing their duties. That to me would be more meaningful than a term limit, because if, let's say, you've got the job and everything and you've been there for 20 years and you've been rocking it, okay, why would I want to cut the cord on you arbitrarily for 20 years?
Well,
It
I
just
think you have it
seems
wrong, though,
an
Mike. I think you have it wrong.
artificial number, but a competency thing, I would say, every once you reach a certain age, every so many years, you should have a competency thing, and then when you enter the job, you should have a competency thing, and even if you have maybe every 10 years, regardless of whether you're a young guy or not, let's see what you can do. So this way, I mean, you have to really pick it apart and come up with, things that make sense. I'm just spitballing here, but the point is that I understand why people want term limits. When you see some of these cats walking around and they can't even find their way, that's not who I want in leadership. That's certainly not somebody I want to have a vote for something important. So, competency is what I see, versus term limits, which is like saying, okay, 20-year-olds can't drink, 21-year-olds can. That's like, okay.
Well, no, I see. I think the term limit thing is, Michael has a different view of it. My view of term limits is you've been there so long, you're comfortable, and you're bringing money and paying people off and so forth. So they're going to support you. You're going to have their employees support you and so forth, their families, and you're going to keep getting reelected. But it's the corruption that I think demands term limits, because if you're there, you're comfortable after 12, 15, 20 years, you may be bringing something good things back to your district, but overall, you need new blood, fresh blood. And the founding fathers figured that in those days, they thought that everybody would go in there, serve a couple of terms, and then go home and live under the laws that you passed. Okay. And these corrupt people in Congress, all they're doing is lining their pockets. They're not subject to the same rules you and I are. They don't have to go under Obamacare, for example. So they all voted for it.
I'll tell you what limit you need. You need to go ahead and look at the total worth of that individual that just took the job. And if he, let's say, quadruples his total worth in such a period of time, then we have to ask the question, is that sculpatory evidence that he's doing something illegal? And, let's just look at it. But the thing is, like what you were saying, Roy, the biggest presumptive of that, your complaint, and I'm not saying that you're unjustified saying it, but the biggest presumption is that the individual is corrupt and that he's reached a point where I know, that's why I'm saying that's why you can't make it a law, because you have to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're actually honest. I mean, we have to presume John's honest, regardless of whether or not he's a Marine. So, gotcha, John. But anyway,
he's an Air Force guy.
Is he laughing?
Yes, he is. Well, he's aiming his rifle at you.
I mean, listen, I understand and I respect that opinion, and I've heard it before, that, obviously you have a good person in there who's doing a good job.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose that person. The way I look at it is that is an unfortunate isolated, but I see too many of the opposite side. There's too many that are not good. If we had, and I also think that if you're a congressman and you get 12 years as a congressman, that's 6 2-year terms. You could become a senator and you could get another 6 to 12 years. That'd be a 24-year career. So there's opportunity to still do it. But the problem is right now, if we had term limits, let's just say you were limited to 12 years,
Why Schumer?
78% of 78% of the Congress would be out. I mean, I don't know if you saw. I mean, we've watched Mitch McConnell have 3 strokes on national TV.
Mhm.
Dianne Feinstein was wheeled into the Senate in a wheelchair 2 weeks before she died. She couldn't understand. All she needed to do was vote aye. Her handlers are whispering in her. You can hear them. Just say aye, just say aye. She's confused. She dies in office 2 weeks later. We just have too much of that. If we didn't have all that, I'd probably be inclined to agree with him, Michael. But to me, it's like a cost benefit. It's worth getting rid of all the grift.
I heard
have a
something
new
last
idea
week
for
that
you, John.
I heard something
I have
last
a
week
new
that
idea.
Maxine Waters, who hasn't been seen lately, Ro Khanna is voting her vote. Is that true? I don't know. You know, you might have an inside track on that. But she was
have a new
incompetent
idea
even when
for
she
you.
was competent. You know, so
For those people who want term limits, okay, let's say we set a term limit. I would say, would it be interesting to shift those people that have reached, let's say, 20 years, like you said, or whatever, and recognize them as an elder statesman and create a new group of advisors, people that you can just go to and use their wisdom.
Yep.
They're right there. And yes, they're going to influence things and so forth, but they don't have the vote, and their incompetence isn't going to interfere.
is this going to be a paid position?
It would be a paid position, yes.
All right, so you're adding more debt to the national debt. One, you're adding another burden to the government.
You know, when I
do this
without
getting paid. What?
When I go to the dentist and get my tooth drilled, I don't think of it as getting more debt. I think of it as a service. So, you know, the question is it money worth spending? And the thing is, you could always do it this way. You can always do it this way. I'm sorry, John, but I'm into this kind of stuff. Let's say I'm right and you want to do that. The first 30 people fill in that space. And then after that, when a new person comes in, boop, another person pops out. Boop, another person pops out.
Who are they? One, first off.
Massive debt you're worried about.
No, secondly, you know, they're still going to influence people if they were corrupt before. They're going to continue to corrupt. They're going to influence things according to the they're beholden to. Anyway,
there might be somebody that you want, might be somebody you don't want.
You could have term limits where you have to be out for one term, and then if you want, you can come back again and restart the clock.
I'll be honest with you, Roy. No matter what you and I say, John's the one who's going to make the decision. So that's the way it goes.
Well, listen, I think the point is these discussions need to be had. If we cleaned up the other things, if the My Clean Hands Act, if everything were to be implemented except for term limits, it would be such a better system anyway. You know, but we definitely. Congress has an approval rating of what, 9%? I mean, it's insane. The American people have lost such faith. I mean, listen, we're talking about voter ID earlier. 80% of Americans believe in it, but we can't get it done, right? Because of partisan politics, there was a southern border left open, literally left open, that 12 million people could walk through not being vetted, people on the terror watch list. We've got such partisan divide where these two teams tell you that the other team hates America. They're a threat to democracy. They must be stopped at all costs. I mean, if we clean up the corruption, we clean up the grift, and people start having faith, like Michael's saying, like we want to have faith. We all want to have faith in our leader, even if you disagree with someone. You want to walk away thinking they're a person of integrity that's in an elected leadership role, right? Even if you know, I one of the things I debated Elizabeth Warren, and we're standing literally inches next to each other, and I was curious because it's one of those times where, you know, guys, you could disagree with someone on every issue, but still walk away thinking, it's probably a good grandmother, probably a good wife or good friend, even though she's dead
Okay.
wrong on policy. Not at all. During the commercial break, she was writing something down as a commercial break. I'm standing there, I'm trying to break the ice, and so I go, Senator, kind of stern like that, and she looks at me, and I hold my fist like a little fist pump, right? And I go, you're very good at debating. You'd think that I was like an alien predator with some kind of communal disease, and that if she touched me, that it would like completely infect her body or something. And it was really like I walked away saying, God, like she really is part of this like bad system
thing.
of.
You should have finished the punch.
Oh, by the way, where online can people go to see to read your Washington Clean Hands Act?
John Deaton for Senate.com, and they can follow me on X at John E. Deaton 1. I've listed it there as well. It's like a 17 to 19 point thing of all the things that we need to do to help clean up Washington, restore some faith in our leaders. Because everything that Michael's saying is something that I believe in. Like, hey, we want to believe these people love America, that they, even if you disagree on policy, right? I think the Green New Deal is ridiculous. I think it's a fairy tale written with, unicorn dust. And it actually is awful for America. But I would like to think that, they have the best intent, right? Even if it's terrible policy. But I don't think we feel that way about our elected leaders today. At least most Americans don't.
Well, I came up with the phrase one time, and it was the reason why you create high integrity is so that you can sell high. And so the thing is like, the opposition that we have to face uses the same terminology that we use to describe our position, yet their application is completely different. Such as free speech, as long as it's acceptable. Here's something that we know. John, John has got to be pro Second Amendment, right? So the thing is that Iran, over 30,000 citizens mowed down by the government. Those people were not armed. Those people didn't even have an opportunity to be armed. Mm-hmm. That is the biggest argument I've ever seen for the Second Amendment that I've in our recent time. It's just
the
like
Biden administration wanted to arm Ukrainian citizens, even though they want to disarm American citizens.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a shooter in Cambridge, Massachusetts. You may have seen it on the news, and it was a armed, lawful citizen that also, helped subdue the person along with police. But your point of Iran, I mean, that's the whole purpose of the Second Amendment is to be able to arm yourself, the citizens to arm themselves from a tyrannical government.
Right.
Exactly. And that's what the left doesn't want you to know.
That's the fundamental basis. A lot of people talk about self-defense, and obviously I believe in self-defense, but it really is to prevent the tyranny of your government from basically taking over your life and everything about your life.
Well, in Europe, particularly in the UK, if you defend yourself, you may as well be in New York City, because they're going to go and prosecute you for defending yourself, especially if you defend yourself with a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the UK, they're arresting people based on what they say online now.
Yeah.
It's
I can never visit
crazy.
England because I've trashed Sturmer and the guy before him and so forth. And I'm always saying how the entire Metropolitan Police Force has to be replaced, because they are working against the citizens of the UK in favor of illegals, basically, especially one particular group.
We have that problem here in Massachusetts where they won't even give priority to a combat vet over an illegal for homelessness.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the most un-American thing I could ever imagine, that we have one of our Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen come back from a combat mission, experience homelessness because of PTSD or whatever they're going through, and they can't get priority over an illegal migrant who came here. That's shocking to me. Shocking.
There's an excellent movie. There's an excellent movie called Harsh Times. It's with Christian Bale, where he is an ex-Marine, come back to the United States, and he just can't fit in.
Right.
And the worst part of it throughout the movie, regardless of the fact that he's a screw up, there's something really good about him, and you just want him to win.
Right.
But the old Second Amendment over here says well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and here's the part I like the best, shall not be infringed. Shall not be infringed. I don't know what that means. Is that in French? Because I can't understand it.
No, New Jersey doesn't abide by that.
You mean New Germany?
Yeah, New Germany, Mike likes to call it. He left the state mainly because of the gun laws, actually.
Oh my God! Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Back in Massachusetts is pretty bad.
Yes, it is.
The governor here, they created a new gun law allegedly under emergency reasons, which is not true, and they made it so vague that you can't comply with it. If it's so vague that they can't comply with it, then it acts as a de facto ban. And right. And they so the Second Amendment, we have a ballot question this year that's going to be on the ballot to get rid of that emergency law that the governor signed into. That's a farce. But listen, there's a lot of rights being, Second Amendment rights are under attack. Parental rights are under attack in this country. There's a lot of,
especially
First Amendment. I should have led with that. I had this debate where I said, listen, I served 7 years in the Marine Corps. I didn't serve 7 years in the Marine Corps of active duty so that you won't be offended. I served 7 years active duty so that you could be offended.
There you go.
Right. Well, the thing is, like, the religious institutions in this country are under attack, unless of course they're Muslim. And the thing is that there's so much. I'm amazed, and I mean that word absolutely. I have been amazed that the anti-Semitism in this country is so rampant. Obvious. I mean, it's just. I'm sorry, but I grew up in a Jewish neighborhood, so I'm very pro-Israel and all that other stuff. But the fact of the matter is, I always felt the United States was always going to be a friend of Israel, especially since we were the first to recognize them. And I like the fact that Trump is a friend of Israel. But the anti-Semitism and that's in this country and being demonstrated by the so-called students, and they're not really students because they're clearly not learning. It's amazing. And then you have churches being burned. You have people that are outside of abortion clinics silently praying, get arrested. This, I think, was that in England or is that in the United States? Anyway, fertility places being bombed, firebombed, and so forth like that. Now they've exposed the FBI was clearly weaponized. They now have evidence of that. To do so, to basically turn these religious groups into enemies and to pursue parents that were trying to go ahead and speak at their PTA meetings, which First Amendment right there, So we have gone through a very, very dark period in this country. It reminds me of the what was the thing about the communists, and they were trying to purge the communists in the 50s, McCarthy era. It's
the Red
similar
Scare,
to
they called it.
you have this extremism, and if it breeds lone wolves that are basically going to run amok. And man, I'm sorry, I went off into a tangent. John, do something with that, whatever it is that I said.
Listen, I mean, obviously, I spoke out. We saw the anti-Semitism on Harvard's campus when the president of Harvard testified before a congressional hearing and wouldn't say that calling for the death of every Jew and the destruction of Israel rose to the level of student misconduct. They were blocking Jewish students from going to classes. And, I said that's disgraceful that you can't protect your Jewish students on campus. And so, it's another issue too, where, it's a fine line. For example, there's no doubt anyone who says there isn't a rise in anti-Semitism isn't paying attention. All right. That's first. At the same time, I think because that if someone criticizes, Israel, I don't necessarily think that makes him an anti-Semite immediately. No. Right. I'll criticize Obama or even Trump on times, and that doesn't make me anti-American. And so, but no, anyone who would say no, I think that there isn't a rise of anti-Semitism is either being deliberately ignorant or lying.
Right.
And these people who are pro-Palestinian supporters, most of them, I'd say a vast majority of them would, if they were over in Palestine or some of the other very rigid, strict Muslim countries, would be thrown off roofs.
Right.
Okay.
There's no doubt. I mean, I've seen young people have a Yasser Arafat T-shirt and they have no idea who that is.
Right. Well,
like
actually,
we look cool with the beard.
We did a comedy thing, and one of the phrases of the Queers for Palestine was, "We'll jump off that bridge when we come to it."
Yeah. There's no doubt, and a lot of them are saying, from the river to the sea, they have no idea what that means. They're just recycling.
What river, what sea?
Right. So it's unfortunate. It is now another divisive issue of toxic division that people use to stoke the fires. Unfortunately.
Well, because of
the First Amendment, I know the government should never trample onto the media's rights. However, do you think there's something that the government could do to punish media for purposely spreading lies? And I mean, they do it all the time. Okay, they've been doing it for decades. We didn't know it until recently, and now they've gone, full speed ahead, and they constantly lie. And there's no, they hide behind the First Amendment and say you can't do anything, so they get away with it. Is there anything you think might be done?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. President Trump obviously has been successful in civilly suing a couple of the media outlets, CBS and ABC, and things of that nature. I mean, right. It is a delicate situation, but I think it should be a high bar of intentional misconduct, intentionally fabricating. But if you can prove that a media outlet has, in fact, intentionally spread lies, misinformation, that there should be some kind of consequence. Yes. It shouldn't be the easiest bar to get over because we have that First Amendment protection, but that doesn't mean the First Amendment should be this absolute shield that shields a media outlet from criminal responsibility, from intentional misconduct.
Yeah, there's
It's a
still
very
slander
fine line.
and libel are still considered crimes. So
Yeah. The biggest problem is the fact that what you don't want to do is you don't want to create a law that stifles um,
Right.
even unintentional misinformation. Like if I'm giving you an opinion piece, okay, that's not news. That's me giving you my opinion based
as long
upon
as you
what I
say
saw.
it's your opinion, it's okay.
Right, but
Yeah.
so the thing is, the newspapers, the newspapers, they could go ahead and say, well, these sections of this information did happen. And you could say, well, you orchestrated people thinking a certain way because you presented the information in this manner. And the problem is, it's very gray. It's like, I'm sorry, but I don't think that the newspapers have to be responsible for the reader's interpretation, so to speak, but at the same time, they are. So
Well, it's manipulation again, as I say.
it's,
John, is
we're
there anything?
screwed.
We're
That's
going
all
on
there
an
is
hour
to it.
now.
We're screwed.
I don't know how you're doing for time, but is there anything else you want to add, or you want to keep going? You want to sum up?
I do have to run. I have an appointment. I appreciate being on the show. I appreciate the time.
Thank you
And
for coming.
no,
You
listen.
walk away.
I know that people watching, they may not necessarily obviously be a Massachusetts resident, but I would say that it's a U.S. Senate seat, so it
Right.
is national implications, voting on foreign policy,
Right.
voting on things that impact the country. And so if they can go to johndeatonforsenate.com and donate $50, $10, $5, that'd be great. If they live in Massachusetts, obviously volunteering would be helpful. We can win this race, and we can get rid of one of these extreme far left individuals who've been in office for 50 years. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
It wasn't mentioned earlier, but you will have to stay on until you're uploaded.
Oh yeah.
Understood.
Just I'll let you know once it's done. Okay, ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, I'll be putting the links to your websites in the show
Appreciate
notes.
it.
And well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of The View from Here, Behind Enemy Lines, and we'll see you again next time.
Boom.
They changed the stop. They changed the stop button on me too. So long.
I know that's another